I'm Carson Horn, and it's time for another edition of Talkin' Toomers, where I break down the latest happenings in Auburn athletics. Let's get rolling. This era is over. After not even 3 full seasons, Hugh Freeze era is over. This is Talkin' Toomers. I am Carson Horn. Yes, we have a lot to get into on today's episode of Talkin' Toomers. If you missed it, yesterday I recorded a live video. That is on Sunday. I'm also recording this on Sunday, but not posting it until Monday. So if you missed it, I recorded a live video after Hugh Freeze's firing was announced. You can still go and check that out. I'll have a few more added thoughts, though, here on today's shows. I've had a little bit more time to process and get my thoughts together for this show. So I have a few extra comments on that. We'll talk more about what this means for this Auburn football program and where this program goes from here. We will also dive into the Vanderbilt game. How is that going to look now that DJ Durkin is taking over as the interim head coach? Yes, he is the interim head coach, if you did not know that news already. And then we will also talk about Auburn basketball. Yes, it is Auburn basketball season. Thank goodness. One of the loudest round of applause that you heard in Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday night was when Auburn basketball season was announced over the PA system at the game. That and when the Dog came out there to pick up the kicking tee for one after one of the kickoffs. Those were the two loudest roars of the crowd that you heard throughout the night. As you can imagine, there wasn't that much to celebrate for the Auburn family. So we'll get into Auburn basketball as well and what we're looking forward to watching for them this week. But let's start out with the big news that I know all of you are mostly interested in the most, and that is Hugh Freeze is firing. Yes, Hugh Freeze is out at Auburn. He was in year 3 of his tenure at Auburn, and it hadn't gone well. Hugh Freeze's final record, I believe, at Auburn's 15-19. He was less than 500 in home games at Jordan-Hare Stadium. He was way below 500 in SEC games. He only had 6 SEC wins in his 2 and over a half seasons on the Plains. Just a terrible, horrific record. Everyone knew the situation that Hugh Freeze was walking into when he took over this Auburn program. Everyone understood where the roster was and how depleted it was from the Brian Harsin regime. There was no debate about that. Everyone understood he was stepping into a tough situation. And Auburn fans had patience. And that was one of the statements from Hugh Freeze's press conference on Saturday night, was how frustrating it was when he was talking about, well, people just don't have much patience these days. Like, no, Auburn fans had a lot of patience for Hugh Freeze and gave him, I think, plenty of time to turn this program around. Really gave him 2 years of pretty much a clean slate and said, you know what? Especially year 1, Auburn fans really understood the focus was on recruiting in year 1. And to Hugh Freeze's credit, he recruited well. Now, as I said in the live right after he was fired, that didn't mean there weren't gaps in this roster still. We saw it last night, especially along the offensive line. Auburn was still lacking in certain areas as far as talent goes, but overall, the talent roster did improve a lot and is in a lot better spot than it was when he took over. So for that, he does get credit. But his coaching, his development was woefully lacking. It was really, really bad. And that's ultimately what got him fired, was his lack of ability to coach offense and to call plays and to develop players on the offensive side of the football. He was hired, 1, because of his recruiting, but 2, because of his offense and the success that he had at Ole Miss and to Liberty to a certain extent with developing quarterbacks and having really good offenses. He didn't have anything close to a good offense at Auburn. We could sit here and point fingers and talk about, well, he should have gotten this quarterback or that quarterback, should have done this or should have done that. And I'm sure as he thinks about what went wrong in his Auburn tenure, he will think about those things. But ultimately, it fell with him. And we can sit here and also have a debate about why he struggled. And we've talked about it some on this show about the game maybe passing him by, offenses having evolved, and Hugh Freeze not evolving with them. Some of the issues that we discussed that hurt Gus Malzahn, I think, also apply to Hugh Freeze. So we can have those discussions. But at the end of the day, it just did not work out. And you can sit back, and we can sit back here and say, yeah, we should have known it from the get-go. I referenced what I said when he was hired back in 2022. I had the show going then. I was a student at Auburn at the time. Now I have graduated, but I said at the time that this hire didn't move the needle for me. But even I did not anticipate this going as poorly as it did. My thoughts were, when Hugh Freeze was hired, I thought, okay, Auburn will have a solid offense. The recruiting will be okay. That was actually better than I anticipated. The offense was a lot worse than I anticipated, and I thought Auburn would be, around an 8-4 team, but that is what you had with Gus Malzahn. And that isn't what you even got with Hugh Freeze, though. You got a lot worse than that, and that did surprise me. So it did go worse than I anticipated. And so here we are with Hugh Freeze being fired into year 3. I said for the last couple of weeks on this show that it was an if, not when. It was a win, not if type of situation for Hugh Freeze, that he was going to be fired. Everyone could read the tea leaves. This was coming. The results just weren't good enough. Should it have come sooner? We can have that debate. But there's no sense in that at this point, in my opinion. Let bygones be bygones. It is over. Hugh Freeze is out. So let's look forward now. Let's look forward and let's discuss what is ahead for this Auburn football season and for this football program in its future. We'll have plenty of time, I'm sure, in the offseason to come back and talk more about Hugh Freeze. But let's look forward now. Where does this team go from here in the immediate? And then where does this team go from here in the long term? This program go from here in the long term. So let's start out with the immediate. Immediately, Auburn plays Vanderbilt this Saturday. Auburn travels to Nashville to play a Vanderbilt team that coming off a tough loss to Texas, and now they return home. They still have playoff hopes, so this is a very big game for them. DJ Durkin is taking over as interim head coach. He has to try to make the most of the rest of this season. We saw interim head coaches can inject new life into a program. Cadillac Williams did that in 2022 when he took over for Brian Hartson. We've seen it this year. Look at the effort Florida gave against Georgia yesterday. Look at what UCLA did this season. There are example after example, year in and year out, of interim head coaches injecting new life into a program and finishing a season strong. That's going to be DJ Durkin's goal. He only has a few games, but can he finish this season strong? Can Auburn knock off Vanderbilt? Can Auburn take care of business, of course, against Mercer? And then can Auburn have a chance to win an Iron Bowl game at home? One thing that Cadillac Williams didn't get as interim head coach, DJ Durkin will get, is a home Iron Bowl. That'll be a massive, massive opportunity for DJ Durkin. So you got to figure out, how can I make the most of the rest of this season? I do hate it for the players. Look, you are limited as much as the rules may be weird now. You are limited in the time that you have in college. So I do hate it that this season is essentially a wash. But I think they're going to be excited to play for DJ Durkin. We know the defensive guys are going to be excited for DJ Durkin to be the head coach for the rest of the season. I know they're going to be excited for him, and I think the offensive players will respond well as well. As I'm recording this, we don't have the answers on who's going to take over play calling on the offensive side of the ball. My assumption would be Derek Nix, the offensive coordinator. However, I wouldn't put it past Auburn to let it be some type of collaborative effort between Derek Nix and Ken Austin, the Auburn quarterback coach. Who's going to play quarterback for Auburn the rest of the season? Is it going to be Ashton Daniels? Is it going to be Jackson Arnold? Those will be the questions that, DJ Durkin will have to answer starting in his press conference, you would assume, tomorrow. But as I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, we don't have the answers yet to those questions. So those will be things that will be answered during the week. But for Auburn, as I've said, you have to go out and you have to try to make the most of it. I think this team's going to continue to give great effort, and I believe this coaching staff, what is left of it, will do everything they can to put together the best game plan they can to have success. These coaches don't know whether they're going to be here next year, so they're also in limbo. So it's a tough spot to be in. These coaches are wondering, okay, what do I need to do to set up my next job? What do I need to do? Am I going to have a chance to stay at Auburn? There's going to be a lot of distractions, is my point, for this Auburn team the rest of the way. These players are going to start getting calls about entering the transfer portal. But can you lock in? Can DJ Durkin get this team to lock in the best they can? Say, you know what? We're going to play for Auburn. We're going to play for each other. And we're going to try to have fun the rest of the season. We're going to try to make the most of the rest of this season. I'm looking forward to watching this program the rest of the way out, the rest of this season. As far as the changes go, how will this team look different with DJ Durkin? That remains to be seen. That's not a question that we can answer right now. Again, we'll get a little bit better picture of that in the coming days, I believe, as DJ Durkin talks to the media more once he takes over. But we really won't have the answer to that probably until the Vanderbilt game and we see this Auburn team on the field under a new head coach. As for the big picture, though, where is this program at and where does this program go from here? So since 2020, I referenced this stat in the live video I did as soon as Hugh Freeze was fired. But since 2020, Auburn has a record of 32-37. Unacceptable, inexcusable, should not happen at a place as prestigious and historic as Auburn University. But yet here we are, 2020, if you don't remember, that was Gus Malzahn's final season. And actually, that ended up being one of the better years for Auburn football now over these last 5 seasons. Auburn went 6-5 that year in the COVID year, where you only played SEC games in the bowl game. Auburn went 6-5. Gus Malzahn was fired. Then Auburn hired Brian Harsin. And then Auburn hired Hugh Freeze. There's plenty of blame to go around, from the administration to power brokers to whoever you want to point the finger. There's plenty of finger pointing that can go on. Some of those people that made some of those decisions are gone now. Some are still involved with Auburn. But again, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to play that game. Fact of the matter is, Auburn's made mistakes. They made wrong hires, and they have to clean that up. And Auburn's suffering the consequences of those wrong decisions and of those wrong hires. When Auburn, and this has the support that it does, when a place like Auburn has the support that it does, has the resources that it does, has the fan base that it does, there is no reason for Auburn not to be a contender for championships in the college football playoff year in and year out. Auburn is a top 15 program in college football. It is an extremely well-supported program. There's just no excuse for it. Auburn should consistently be competing for the college football playoff and for championships, and the next coach has to be able to deliver on that. There are no excuses. Auburn can't get this hire wrong. I said this immediately after the firing. Auburn has to get this next hire right. We said that after Brian Harsin, and Auburn didn't. The comparison I've always made is to Tennessee. For most of my life, Tennessee were pretty much irrelevant. After Lane Kiffin left for USC, and really when Philip Fulmer had retired early in my life and I was just a little baby, Tennessee went on to be irrelevant from that point on until they hired Josh Heupel, and now they're back to being a really good program again. Auburn doesn't want to fall down in that hole. Now, Auburn's already in it to a certain extent. Auburn's 5 years into it. Tennessee, they went about 15 years. If you keep making the wrong hire, you will continue to dig that hole deeper and deeper and make it more challenging to get out of. The good news for Auburn, and what makes this situation different than the Tennessee situation, is transfer portal and NIL. It was harder to have a fast turnaround during those previous 15 years that Tennessee was in the wilderness. Now you have those two things. There's no reason Auburn can't be successful in year one of a new head coach. One, because the talent roster overall is not all that bad. So the new head coach, they should certainly prioritize keeping as many guys on the defensive side of the ball as they can, along with prioritizing certain pieces offensively. And then you go add a few pieces here and there. You're going to lose some guys, absolutely, and you have to replace those guys that you do. There's no reason Auburn can't be a solid and competitive team in year one. I look at the comparison that I would draw for Auburn. If you're going ideal scenario, look at Texas A&M under Mike Elko. Look what they did year one. Yeah, they finished, I think, 8-5, but they were competing for the SEC championship all the way until the end of the season in year one. Mike Elko took over a program that had some talented players, had plenty of support, and he was able to get that thing back rolling fairly quickly. And here they are in year two, looking down for the college football playoff. There is no reason Auburn cannot be in the same place if Auburn makes the right hire here. If they do, then watch out. Auburn can quickly get the train back on the tracks. But you have to make the right hire. Auburn cannot make the wrong hire again. If they do, yes, you're going to continue to find yourself in that Tennessee wilderness of the past 15 years. And that's not where any Auburn fan wants to be, and that's not where this Auburn program wants to go. So who's Auburn going to hire? I wish I knew. Right now, sitting here with not much information besides what the rest of you have, and that's what you can read from the hot boards that are out there, my gut tells me it's going to be John Sumrall. That's the former Troy head coach and the current Tulane head coach. He's from Huntsville, Alabama, played at Kentucky, coached at Ole Miss as well, coached at Kentucky as an assistant as well. I think he would be successful at Auburn. I understand the risk. I understand the concern with hiring a G5 head coach. Let me just put it to you this way. Not every group of 5 head coach is going to be a Billy Napier or a Brian Harsin. And not every Power 4 coordinator that you could hire is going to be a Kirby Smart. If coaching hires are easy, then we wouldn't be seeing the massive buyouts and the insane amount of firings that we are seeing this year. It's not easy to get this right. It's not. Again, there are guys that get paid a lot of money. These athletic directors get paid a lot of money to hire the right guy, and they oftentimes get it wrong. I do think there are certain things that the athletic directors and presidents and board of trustees members should look for in a head coach that's going to make them more successful. But it's not a sure thing. There is no hire out there that I see for Auburn that is necessarily going to be a sure thing. So is the Auburn fan base going to absolutely agree on any one hire unless it was Lane Kiffin, which isn't going to happen? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a hire out there that Auburn is going to make that there will be 100% support. I do think there are some hires out there that Auburn could make that would get the majority of the fan base support. I think John Sumrall would be one of those. Eli Drinkwitz is going to be brought up, former Missouri, the current Missouri head coach, coached at Auburn back in 2010, as you all know, just came into Auburn and won. There's going to be others like DJ Durkin, of course, interim head coach. Could he, if he finishes strong this year, could he get the full-time role? That'll be mentioned. There'll be plenty of other guys, G5 level, and other G5 head coaches that'll be brought up. I'm just giving you my guess as of now. I do think it'll be John Sumrall, but again, I don't have any inside information. That's my gut. I will say this, though. Be patient. It's going to take time. All these coaches, for the most part, are still competing for championships or still coaching their teams, period. We're only in the 1st of November. It's going to be a while. As soon as Auburn could probably have a new head coach is after the Iron Bowl. It could drag on further than that if you're waiting on a coach that's playing for conference championships or in the college football playoffs. So just be patient. It's not going to be easy to wait. I understand. I'm not the most patient either, but just have to take time, let this process play out. But in the end, Auburn has to get this hire right. I would prefer a hire to happen before signing day in early December, but if you're absolutely dead set on a certain coach and you believe this guy is the right guy, then you have to be willing to wait, and you have to sacrifice that a little bit. So we'll see how it all plays out. We'll keep you updated week in and week out on this show. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, every week. That's where we stand right now in the long-term future. Now, back to this week and to the present moment. Auburn plays Vanderbilt this Saturday. What is this Auburn team going to look like? Is this team going to be focused? Is this team going to be motivated and ready to go? I don't know. I think they will be because I have a lot of confidence in DJ Durkin as interim head coach to get the most out of this team. As I mentioned at the onset, Vanderbilt is coming off of a loss at Texas. The final score of this game was really close, but Vanderbilt scored a lot late to make this game close. Texas really dominated. This was about as bad of a start as you could have if you were Vanderbilt in this game. The turnover early in this game, touchdown on the first play of the drive for Texas, just atrocious start for the Commodores. But to their credit, and to Clark Lea's credit, they don't give up. They continue to fight. They battle. They fought their way back and made this respectable in the end. And now they return home with 2 losses, and their playoff hopes really lying in the balance here. If they lose this game to Auburn, I don't see them making a playoff. So this is a massive, massive game for Vanderbilt at home for Vanderbilt. So it's a road game. However, I'm sure Auburn will have plenty of fans there, probably more fans now than Auburn would have had Hugh Freeze still been the head coach. I imagine so. I don't know if it'll be 75% of the stadium like it was 2 years ago when I traveled to Nashville to watch Auburn take on Vanderbilt before Clark Lee brought in Diego Pavia and kind of turned things around. I don't know if it'll be that way, but I do expect Auburn to have a good amount of fans there because I think there is a large contingency of Auburn fans in the Nashville area. So last year, Auburn held Vanderbilt to 17 points. Auburn's defense did a tremendous job against Diego Pavia. He wasn't the reason Vanderbilt won that game last year. Vanderbilt's defense and Auburn's poor offense, sounds familiar, doesn't it, was the reason that Vanderbilt won that game last season. And I think if Auburn's going to win this game, again, this Saturday, it's going to come down to Auburn's defense having success yet again against this Vanderbilt offense. Can Auburn's offense do enough, though? Auburn's defense held Kentucky to 10 points. Auburn's defense has still yet to allow 24 points in a game this season. Based on that, Auburn should be undefeated. There's no reason if your defense hasn't allowed a team to score more than 24 points that you should not be undefeated, quite frankly. The other 2 teams in the country that have done that are Ohio State, Indiana. Both of those 2 teams are undefeated. So let's go with that 24-point mark. Can Auburn's offense, now with Hugh Freeze gone and someone else calling plays, can Auburn's offense score 24 or more points in this game against Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt has the 21st ranked rush defense in the country. That's really good. They're really good against the run. We saw Kentucky gave Auburn fits. First time really all year that Auburn has really struggled to run the football. I think a lot of that had to do with, yes, Connor Lew being out. They took advantage of a young center in Kel Ellis. They knew they were going to have an advantage there. They did things to confuse him, but also he just got beat physically some. That's going to happen. He's 17 years old. He reclassified. That's a tough spot for him to be in. I'm not going to criticize him. It was a tough game for him. Sure, Vanderbilt's going to see that film and try to do the same this week. Does Auburn try to make a change and move Mason Murphy in from tackle to center? I don't know. We'll see how all that plays out. But Auburn's offensive line really struggled in that Kentucky game, and Vanderbilt has the potential with their defensive line to slow down this Auburn run game as well. If that happens, I think it's going to be tough for Auburn to find a way to win this game. Where Vanderbilt is weak is where Auburn is weak. And Vanderbilt's pass defense is 103rd in the country in total pass defense, which is not good. The problem is we know Auburn can't throw the ball either. So it's strength versus strength and weakness versus weakness, if you will. What does that change with a new offensive coordinator? Can Auburn find more success in the passing game? Can Auburn come up with a game plan to go at Vanderbilt and have success? We'll see. As for Auburn on the defense side against Vanderbilt's offense, Vanderbilt has the number 7 rushing attack in the country of 5.9 yards per rush. We know Auburn's defense is excellent against the rush. Auburn has the number 5 rush defense, allowing opponents just 2.5 yards per rush. Who's going to win that battle? I have confidence it's going to be Auburn's defense. I think they can slow down this Vanderbilt run game. What I'm circling is third down. Auburn, as good as the defense was in this game against Kentucky, and I don't want to nitpick them because they were excellent, Auburn's third down defense was not as good as it has been in that Kentucky game. Well, Vanderbilt is excellent on third down. They are number 7 in the country in third down conversion rate. Auburn is 25th in the country, even after a poor showing against Kentucky, in defensive third down conversion rate. Auburn has to get off the field on third down. Vanderbilt does an excellent job at burning the clock, time of possession, sustaining drives. Can Auburn stop the run and get off the field on third down? If the defense can do that, Auburn's going to have a chance to win this game if they can get enough out of the offense. Eye discipline is extremely important against this Tim Beck offense with a lot of movement, a lot of motion, a lot of things going on. Auburn's defense has to be extremely disciplined. Every guy has to do their job. One guy gets out of place, a big play can bust through, and Vanderbilt can score. So Auburn has to make sure they stop the big plays, force Vanderbilt to drive the field. They can do it, but don't allow Vanderbilt to break off big plays in this game and get off the field on third down. Back to the offense. I don't know who's going to start at quarterback. If I had to guess, it's going to be Jackson Arnold. I think he's the better option. I think he allows you to do more in the passing game. I think he can run the offense a little bit better. But I have no clue how this Auburn team's going to look. I do think they'll play motivated. I do think they'll be excited to play for DJ Durkin. But how can I pick Auburn in this game? You can't. I mean, there's no way to know what to expect overall from this team. Will the offense look any different with someone besides Hugh Freeze calling the plays? I doubt it. I think it is what it is. It's still the same offensive system, so there's only so much that you can change if you're Ken Austin and Derek Nix and this offensive staff. So I'm going to go Auburn. I think it'll be another lower scoring game. I do believe the defense will play hard and will do enough to win this game. But yet again, I just don't have enough confidence in the Auburn offense. Can Auburn get some turnovers in this game and force the action themselves defensively? Maybe so. And maybe if that happens, you can pull off the upset. But I got to go Vandy in this one. Okay, let's get off of football really quickly to close out today's show. And let's talk about Auburn basketball. Yes, the Auburn basketball season is here. Auburn will face off against Bethune-Cookman on Monday, and then it is Merrimack on Thursday. So 2 opening games this week inside Neville Arena on Monday night at 7 o'clock and Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Auburn played Memphis this past week in another exhibition game and just dominated Memphis. A much better exhibition game than Auburn had in Birmingham earlier in the preseason, I guess you will, against Oklahoma State. Auburn won that game 171 against Memphis. A lot better defensive game from the Tigers in that one, the Auburn Tigers in that one. So that was good to see. It was good to see Auburn improve in the areas that they struggled in against Oklahoma State. But now the real season is here. And Bethune-Cookman's not a terrible opener for Auburn. They are projected to win the SWAC conference this year. Stephen Pearl mentioned their size and their athleticism is really good. He said they don't look like a SWAC team from a physicality standpoint. So this should be a good opening game for Auburn. Still a game that Auburn should win and should win comfortably. But with a team that has good athletes, and they could create some challenges for you. We'll see how they do with their speed and deal with their athleticism. And then Merrimack on Thursday night, they're projected to finish 7th in their league. These games overall, though, they're all about Auburn and focusing on yourself, focusing on how to continue to get better and continue to improve on what you need to before you really get into these big non-conference games that are coming up for Auburn. You want to be playing as well as you can heading into those big ones because those are massive opportunities coming up for Auburn in non-conference to get some massive quad one wins. We saw last year how much those matter to get those quad one wins, how much that'll matter come March and Selection Sunday. So yeah, it may only be November, but those games matter a lot. So it's important for Auburn to tighten things up this week in these two games. Don't mess around, take care of business, and get the job done against Bethune-Cookman and Merrimack. So what am I watching for in these two games from Auburn? First off, I'm looking forward to the rotation. So against Memphis, Stephen Pearl decided to start what essentially has been his bench as the starters, which is not unusual for an exhibition. You do some different things, like guys start who probably aren't going to. And that rotation did a phenomenal job as starters. So they played a lot better together than they did in the Oklahoma State game. So hats off to them. But I would expect starting rotation to move back to what it was against Oklahoma State, and that being Todd Pettiford at the 1, Kevin Overton at the 2, Elijah Freeman at the 3, Keyshawn Hall at the 4, and Keyshawn Murphy at the 5. I expect that to be your starting rotation. I think you're going to see 7 guys that play a lot, is my guess. So including those 5 guys, I think SWA, Sebastian Williams-Adams, the true freshman, and then Philip Jovic, the true freshman from Europe, that's 20 years old. I think you'll see those 7 guys play a ton. You can see Philip Jovic and Sebastian Williams-Adams play anywhere from the 3 to the 5. My question mark is past those 7 guys. How deep does Auburn rotation go? How much you see Caden Magwood as the backup point guard? How many minutes will he get at the point position? Will it be 10-ish minutes a game? What about Abdul Bashir? He brings really good shooting off the bench, but his defense leaves a lot to be desired. So what can he do for you? What can he bring for you off the bench? I'm really looking to see how much will those 2 guys play. If you can get 10, 15 minutes out of those guys, that makes you a deeper team. That gets your rotation to about 9 guys, which is pretty solid. And then, of course, you have Oporum in there. I'm not so sure how much he's going to play. Didn't play a ton in either exhibition. And usually that's a sign that a guy's probably not going to play much once the real games start. So we'll see. I would like for him to be able to play, especially with the way Keyshawn Murphy is right now, being a little banged up with a knee and a hip injury. We know Auburn's front court is my biggest concern. The depth in the front court is my biggest concern. Auburn's going to be really small when Keyshawn Murphy's off the court, especially if Philip Jovic or Sebastian Williams-Adams are at the 5 because they're both listed at 6'8". So they have to be extremely physical. So it's going to be tough. So I would love for Oporum to be able to play, but I'm not sure in his development if he's there yet. I still think he'll come along and he'll get there, but it just might not be this season. But maybe he'll surprise us, and maybe he will. So I am interested to see how tight those rotations are. I would still expect them to be looser than they will become SEC play. I don't expect it to be so tight that like it would be in our March Madness or SEC game, but I do think they'll tighten up some compared to the exhibition games. The next thing I'm interested in is, does Keyshawn Hall continue to lead the team in scoring in both of these games this week? Right now, he led Auburn in scoring in both of the 2 exhibition games, if I'm not mistaken. He's an excellent scorer. He can score on anywhere, 3-level scorer, as they say. He can score anywhere on the court. He can drive. He can get to the basket. He can shoot it. He can get to the free throw line. He looks to be could be Auburn's most important player past Todd Pettiford. You can make the argument he is more important than Todd Pettiford for Auburn this season. So does he continue to score at an extremely high level, or does the Todd Pettiford or Kevin Overton or someone else end up leading Auburn in scoring in one of these games this week? Really am interested in seeing that, because right now Keyshawn Hall looks like a guy who could possibly lead not just Auburn but the SEC in scoring this year. Remember, he was the All Big 12 leading scorer last season at UCF. Next up, does Tahad find a shot? Speaking of him and his scoring, he didn't shoot it well in either exhibition game. Now, Tahad is a streaky shooter. We know that. He'll shoot it really well. He's going to have some bad games. Every shooter has bad games. I want to see more consistency out of him. I've said that. I want to see more consistency from him when his shot's not falling. Can he score in other ways? Can he still positively impact the game even when you're not scoring? That is the biggest area of growth I want to see from Tahad Pettiford this year. Can you still run point at a high level even if you're not scoring it well? Can you get your teammates involved? Can you continue to play good defense? Those are things I'm keying for Tahad Pettiford this year if he wants to really take his game to another level. But I would also like for his shot to fall. So I'll be interested to see getting back home in Neville Arena, being excited to be in front of the Auburn jungle. Can he get back going? Speaking of the jungle, that's my final point. How is Neville Arena in the post-Bruce Pearl era, for the Stephen Pearl era? I'm really looking forward to seeing the crowd and the environment on Monday and Thursday night. I fully expect it to be just as loud and raucous as it's ever been. I think fans are going to be excited. This is going to be a fun team to watch. It's going to be a different team than last year, absolutely. This team's going to play a lot faster. We've seen that in the 2 exhibition games. They're going to get up and down the court. They're not going to be as good defensively. Not going to be as good of a team overall, period. But I still expect them to be a solid team and to be a team that Auburn fans will be proud and will enjoy watching. So I think the Neville Arena crowd is going to be electric as always. I was asking some of my friends what the chant for Stephen will be. If you don't know what I'm talking about, whenever Bruce Pearl walked out on the court for a game, everyone chanted Bruce. It sounded like booze if you weren't familiar with Bruce's name or the Auburn tradition there. So I'm interested to see how the Stephen chant goes when he walks down to the court for the first time as head coach of the Auburn basketball team. But I'm looking forward to seeing these 2 games and watching this Auburn team on Monday and Thursday, and we will have plenty of reaction to that game, and then we will preview some bigger games coming up for Auburn in the near future as we continue on with the show. But I've said a lot, so I'm going to wrap it up there. We had a lot to cover on today's episode, obviously, with the firing of Hugh Freeze and then getting into the future of this Auburn football program, along with the Auburn basketball season getting rolling. Sorry about not having a show last week, but we are back and rolling. There's going to be a lot to discuss through the coming months between the Auburn football season continuing on, the Auburn coaching search, Auburn basketball season has started. It's a lot. It's a lot, but we will be here. We'll break it all down. So make sure you're subscribed to the show and you're following me at Talkin Toomers on X. I'll have plenty more content for you there. And because we know news happens fast, so I can't record a show every single day. So there are things that may have happened by the time you're listening to the show. So to get my updated thoughts on those types of things, make sure you're following on social media. But that'll wrap us up. So thank you so much for watching or listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. I do greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Talkin Toomers. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and follow at Talkin Toomers on social media so you'll never miss an episode. War Eagle.